let's say that you're in a UAV that's flying along, then the UAV is kind of an airplane design, meaning it's moving forward on a steady basis. It's not like a helicopter. And you want to put a bunch of those toward a task together. Well, a flock of starlings, maybe number in the thousands, and they're all moving forward and they look a lot alike, beautiful, what they're called murmurations as they move
Hmm.
around. And they each are coordinating with their neighbors in terms of how they're moving through the air and how they're testing the air. Whereas if you put a bunch of quadcopters might be a lot more like a bee. And so if you look
Mm,
at a swarm of bees and the way they move around, that's a lot more accommodating in terms of how the quadcopter moves around. So aligning what you're trying to impact in our human realm, as far as the UXV, with a particular species that's doing that already via Mother Nature and via what they've
yeah.
evolved to do, is a great way to kind of get a jump start, some insights on how you might want to go do that.
From AgriPoint, this is Intelligence Everywhere. I'm James Kotecki. My guest today is Chris Benson, host of the Practical AI podcast for 7 years and counting. He is also a principal AI and autonomy research engineer at Lockheed Martin, but he is not representing Lockheed Martin in any capacity in this interview. His views are his own, and his views are fascinating. Chris is an expert on software, data, and AI for autonomous vehicle swarming. Animals can swarm, drones can too, and Chris is here to explain how this can help humanity. Chris, welcome to Intelligent Everywhere. So great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, James. It's really wonderful being here.
A UAV, a drone, an unmanned submarine, a self-driving car, any of these things can theoretically be a platform, right?
That's right. Another popular term is UXV. If you have an unmanned or uncrewed aerial vehicle, UAV, or a ground vehicle, which would be UGV, you can put an X in there like you do in so many things that kind of says whatever the domain that you're operating in, it's an uncrewed X vehicle. And that would be kind of how I use the word platform.
When platforms, when UXVs can swarm, what kind of problems can we solve?
The thing that swarms, in my view, are really good at are when you're looking at complex real world situations that are occurring in real time and have dynamics that can't necessarily be planned for. So if you're looking at some sort of job out there, and you might use robots or might use drones, but you can kind of plan everything out, A, B, C, D. A quick example would be we'll see these drone fleets kind of take the place of fireworks. I think during the Beijing Olympics some years back, they had a bunch of drones in the air, but they're not really communicating. They're all following preset patterns. The thing the swarm can do that's different from that fleet is that it can use its sensors and it can use its onboard compute and the software and the models that are on it to communicate among themselves to solve a problem that they've come upon in real life. An example might be disaster recovery or emergency response situations where you're out there where you may not have infrastructure, you may not have lots of communications capabilities, but you could send a swarm that is imbued with these capabilities to go out and look at the situation and understand what needs to happen and coordinate individual UXV or platforms in the swarm to do different parts of the job and to coordinate those efforts.
Go out there, take a look, come back and tell us what's going on. This could be at that level of abstraction then given to a swarm of drones that could then go back and get the data with the kind of nuances that we as humans might have if we went out there with our own eyes and looked, which of course we can't. Or maybe with facets and nuances that go beyond what humans would have even done and come back with some better stuff.
Absolutely. This is rapidly evolving, but being able to go out and in any of the UXVs that we're talking about that are participants in a swarm have some level of sensing, some capability for understanding the world around them and understanding their relationship with the other UXVs that are in the swarm. They have a certain amount of compute and they have algorithms that are running on those that they are using comms to move back and forth on. They may be sent out with, for instance, a mission like you're going to go out and do this type of job, and they may be imbued from the start, if we're talking disaster recovery, with algorithms and models that are conducive to disaster recovery. And so they already have a toolkit on board that they share, and then they go out, and then the dynamic aspects of the moment, they can do the analysis, and they have the compute and the comms to be able to make decisioning there with comms to a human to make sure that they're on the right track and that things don't go off the rails on that.
Can a platform swarm do that kind of disaster monitoring and recovery work today?
I would estimate right now that we are approaching that level, but we're not quite there yet. I think a big part of that is being able to deploy agentic AI to the edge. We have a lot of the other components in place already, but this year, 2025, if anything, it's been the year of agentic AI, and being able to combine a bunch of different algorithms and models together to do that analysis and then affect the physical world is kind of right on the cusp of where we're
Mhm.
at. So we're looking
Yeah.
at maybe not today, but not far out as we speak.
One can certainly imagine the benefits and use cases for monitoring as it relates to a whole host of grand challenges, from climate monitoring to food security monitoring, infrastructure monitoring. Are there other use cases? We think about package delivery, for example. Are there other use cases beyond monitoring that would impact some of these grand challenges that we should be keeping our eye on?
As we get to where agentic AI is having big impacts on the physical world, the sky is the limit in terms of the number of use cases. There's so much, the world is big and uncertain, and the ability of this kind of technology to go out and make an impact is pretty substantial. So as we move past Amazon or Walmart or, pick your retailer that's flying a drone to drop off a package, that's just going to increase in the world. And there's a point where you have airspace congestion and you have a lot of coordination that needs to happen. A package may not need a swarm, but there might be an ad hoc swarm that develops when you have a whole bunch of individual package deliveries and they're trying not to
Yeah.
collide and run
Yeah.
into things. And they're also trading information to make the airspace safer and more efficient. It may not be just that a given swarm does something, it may be that you use the technology to enable communication
Yeah.
among a bunch of different
Right.
vying platforms.
Or even one platform, one unit has multiple missions, right? Yeah, go deliver this package, but also monitor the air quality and look out for any emergency situations while you're out there and communicate with your fellow units in the air to kind of spread this information around and have them do stuff, etc.
Yeah, the beautiful thing is, for that one piece of hardware, all those are just software-driven tasking, and so if you have the right sensors, on it, then you can go do a lot of different things with a platform. Imagine going to an outdoor event, couple 100,000 people go to a venue, might be NASCAR or something like that, I'm just making it up, trying to get out of the traffic area,
Yeah,
and you
at a
sit there
parking
for an
lot.
hour and a
Yeah.
half trying to leave the venue after the event's over. Well, you could put up a bunch of drones, into a swarm mentality, and they could to work together to help us get out of that venue, and essentially
Yeah.
ants on the ground trying to get out of the parking lot. That's a trivial, like that's a very low end kind of thing that's very commercial, but that kind of small use case, there'll be literally millions of entrepreneurs being able to apply these technologies to different things.
And for emergency situations where people absolutely had to leave an area quickly for safety reasons, it would be even more beneficial.
Absolutely.
You talked about how the animal world is giving lessons to how to do this swarming.
I'm an animal lover, as you know. We've a long friendship and talked about this. And different species have different ways of swarming. I think the one unified thing is they all keep it simple. They don't try to do massive centralized control the way we humans tend to. They have simpler algorithms that allow them to do specific tasking. And I align what I'm trying to do in a UXV standpoint with, like, what does my mission look like? And is there an animal analog to this? From flocks of starlings to bats, Mother Nature has already perfected the art and science of swarming and has given us a great roadmap to use for autonomous platform development.
People are no doubt fascinated by this conversation, would like to hear more from you. Where can they find practical AI and more of the work that you're doing?
Our podcast is called Practical AI. You can find it at practicalai.fm. And if you go to /321, that is an episode about the same topic. That's a long form episode where my co-host Daniel Whitenack and I talk about this for about 40 minutes. Practicalai.fm.
Well, thank you, Chris, for gracing us with your presence on this podcast. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much for having me, James.
And thank you so much for watching. Please let us know what you're working on in the comments. Hit like, hit subscribe, let the YouTube algorithm know that you want more intelligent everywhere, and it'll make me happy too. From AgriPoint, I'm James Kotecki. Let's get out there.